If you're joining us for the first time, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, where our incredible global community gather every Monday to Thursday to take a look at those top stories making headlines in Israel. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that I hear from so many of you that you tune in for the Israel Brief because we bring you news that you're not going to get on the BBC or Sky News or CNN, and most certainly not on Al Jazeera. So you're going to get it here. And as always, the Israel Brief is brought to you in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land. And no matter where you are in the world, grab your beverage of choice. It's hot here in Israel, so I'm going to grab my water. But hey, if you want to throw in a gin and tonic, no judgments here. And let's take a look at those top stories. It is day 375. We are getting very, very close to that 400-day mark since the 7th of October 2023. When Hamas launched their attack against southern Israel and murdered, mutilated and raped over 1,200 people and took over 251 hostage. 101 still remain in captivity. And this was followed on the 8th of October by Hezbollah in the north of Israel firing onto communities there. We still have over 60,000 internal refugees, people who have had to flee their homes in the north of Israel because of Hezbollah fire. While all this is happening, we are still fighting on other fronts. We have the Houthis from Yemen, we have Palestinian terror factions in the West Bank, we have terror factions from Iraq and Syria, and of course we have had the threat from Iran. So Israel fighting this war on multiple fronts. But on the subject of Iran, it brings us to the first headline of the day. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has reportedly told President Biden that Israel will retaliate for the massive Iranian strike on Israel exactly 2 weeks ago. Iran sent over 180 ballistic missiles into Israel. Massive, massive missiles. Some of them are about 30 feet long, with the intention of causing as much damage and killing as many Israeli civilians as possible. Of course, you won't see any lawsuits brought against Iran at the International Court of Justice now, will you? But the Prime Minister has reportedly said that Israel will strike military targets in Iran in retaliation and will not strike nuclear or oil fields. The Prime Minister has also said that Israel will listen to the advice of our American allies, but ultimately we will make the final decision. Meanwhile, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has reassured U.S. authorities that Israel has no intention of laying siege to northern Gaza. This was erroneously reported by the Associated Press and by Sky News, who quoted an unnamed ex-Israeli official saying that the only way to starve out terrorists is to lay siege to the north of Gaza. This will not be happening. So if you see that reported in social media, please refer them to our defense minister and correct them. The South African Jewish community has launched a counter petition and has lambasted the decision by the city of Johannesburg to rename one of its iconic streets, Santon Drive, after Palestinian airplane hijacker Leila Khaled. Yes, you heard that correctly. Ironically, the American consulate or embassy is also situated on Santon Drive. So could you imagine the American embassy or consulate, I think both buildings are or both services are in the same building, sitting on a street named for an internationally recognized terrorist. Well, the South African Zionist Federation have launched a petition in objection to it. People who object to the proposed street renaming have, I think, until the end of this month to launch their their proposals. So I'm going to read to you from the statement of the South African Zionist Federation spokesperson, who said renaming Santon Drive after a failed terrorist with ties to a globally recognized terrorist organization not only sows division amongst residents but also contradicts the city's renaming policy. It potentially burdens businesses with address changes and undermines confidence in the city. This change appears deliberately provocative towards the U.S. consulate located on Santon Drive, potentially discouraging American investment in Johannesburg. It's particularly concerning given that the U.S. government has officially designated the PFLP, that's the Palestinian Front for the Liberation, or the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, as a terrorist organization. And the SA Jewish Board of Deputies also launched their objection, saying the SAJBD is objecting to this outrageous proposition as it flouts both the Johannesburg policy on the naming of streets and is designed to divide our city, and went on to say that it is a narrow-minded decision. So if you are in South Africa, I think look up the South African Zionist Federation. They have their petition out. Please make sure you add your name to it. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. And one wonders where South Africa went from the heydays of 1994 with the release of Nelson Mandela, a man who spoke of conciliation and who spoke to both sides to being blatantly pro-Hamas. But I know that the majority of South Africans are against a lot of their government's policies and clearly and strongly stand with Israel. There has been a lot of talk about humanitarian aid and whether or not it is allowed in and out of the Gaza Strip. And Vice President Kamala Harris said that no aid was going into the Gaza Strip. Well, this has been contradicted by COGAT, that is the unit in the IDF responsible for the coordination of humanitarian aid. And as I've said before, you can follow COGAT by Googling COGAT. It will take you to their dashboard, it will take you to their site, and you can see the humanitarian aid that goes in on a daily basis. COGAT said that yesterday 104 trucks entered the Kerem Shalom crossing. 12 trucks were collected by international aid organizations. Now, just to clear something up, it is not the IDF's responsibility to distribute aid. The IDF is only bound by the Geneva Convention not to impede the distribution or the entry of humanitarian aid, but international aid organizations are responsible for the distribution. And they've also said that 530 aid trucks are awaiting collection. They also confirmed that they have sent in 69,000 liters of fuel as well as 800 blood transfusion units. They say, COGAT says that they, along with 33 patients, were able to transfer the patients and their accompanying medical personnel from the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Jabalia, which is a part of the Gaza Strip now being heavily targeted by the IDF for harboring Hamas terrorists. And we do have some footage that is circulating on social media that has civilians in the Gaza Strip calling on the IDF, saying Hamas will not allow them to evacuate. They are beating them with sticks and forcing them to return to where they came from so that they can shore up that civilian count. Now, just a reminder that the IDF, as you have seen in Lebanon, makes sure that civilians know to evacuate due to impending airstrike. While we're staying on the subject of humanitarian aid, the World Health Organization has said that the second round of polio inoculations in the Gaza Strip are going successfully, and that yesterday they managed to inoculate 92,000 children inside Gaza. Now I ask you, you are smart people, is this a genocide? You decide for yourself. And finally, the IDF have shown footage of the 800-meter tunnel that they uncovered in the south of Lebanon yesterday. Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the IDF chief spokesperson, took the cameras inside this tunnel, which it's just extraordinary. And what they found in there were beds, fridges, food for Hezbollah terrorists, helicopter-launched missiles. They found mortar shells. They found motorbikes, and it is believed that they were biding their time to launch Operation Conquer the Galilee, which is the mirror operation that Hezbollah had planned to the Al-Aqsa flood that we saw from Hamas in the south of Israel on the 7th of October. The IDF have also confirmed striking 230 Hezbollah sites. Meanwhile, yesterday afternoon, Hezbollah fired 3 long-range missiles towards the center of Israel, sending people from 182 locations from the north to the center into their shelters. That is millions of Israelis sent into their shelters. And that is your top stories for today. As you can see, my brain is slightly curdling. Must be the change of weather. So let's take a look at that audience question. I know you guys love the audience question segment. I love it too. And if you have a question, please pop it in the comments section below or contact us via our website. And today's question comes from somebody who has asked to please remain anonymous, saying, do I think countries knew about 710 before it happened? Well, I do believe that Iran knew about it. And this is because we have proof, as I mentioned in yesterday's broadcast, that the New York Times published that 59-page dossier with all the plans for a massive attack. But there are a lot of questions that many people are asking, like how come South Africa could launch a genocide case that would take months and months and months to prepare in only, I think it was not even 2 months into the war. There was another podcast released over the weekend that the former First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, that showed some of his emails trying to get his family out of Gaza on the 6th of October. So I won't say did countries know, but did people know? Did organizations know? Did entities know? My gut instinct says I think they did. I think that we saw such a quick mobilization on the 8th of October of many anti-Israel, pro-Hamas groups around the world on the streets of major cities. And my gut instinct tells me that this was known about. I would be interested to hear your thoughts, so pop them in the comments section below. So that's it from me for today, guys. I clearly need to go and get some rest. But in the meantime, don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottel's site, our YouTube channel is at The Israel Brief. We're on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks. And you guys know I adore you. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. You're the smartest audience out there. In fact, you're not just an audience, you're a community. Let's not kid ourselves. We're one big community here on the Israel Brief, and I'll catch you tomorrow before we start the festival of Sukkot. Bye for now.